The Star Tribune wanted to create a YouTube series to reach Gen Z. The challenge? They had an empty YouTube channel, a host brand new to being on camera.
I had no on-camera experience at all.
And an intense news cycle to contend with.
No! We want it now! We can't breathe!
This is how they made it work. Hey, I'm Asante Bean with the Poynter Institute. We teamed up with the Star Tribune, a newspaper in Minneapolis, Minnesota. We worked with them through VidSpark. Our program focused on bringing local news to younger audiences through social media video.
Our interest in reaching a Gen Z audience has everything to do with they are the future. We need to let them know that the Star Tribune is here, not just in a newspaper box on the corner, if they even know what that is.
We decided to focus on YouTube and Instagram. The Star Tribune had been using their YouTube channel as a place to store videos that primarily lived on their website or elsewhere. At the start of this program, their channel's content had been set to private, so it was time for a refresh. One of the best ways to reach an audience on social media is to create content with the audience's needs in mind from the outset. What does a person in high school or college need right now? What kind of information are they searching for? The Star Tribune created the Tomorrow Together video series with these questions at the forefront.
We really, tried to sit in the shoes of a Minnesotan who's 18 to 24. I think we just had this kind of like profile of the person we were trying to reach and thought very deeply about who they are and what they want to know in a way that we don't always think so deeply about.
Our concept has changed from just being more pure educational style to looking for ways that we could help our audience and then looking for ways that we could help explain what was happening in our community.
At first, the series covered young people's experiences during the COVID-19 outbreak. The team produced videos on topics like graduating in a pandemic. The series evolved with the changing news cycle, especially after the death of George Floyd.
When George Floyd was killed here in Minneapolis, we had to pivot again. It became really clear that this was the biggest story of the year, and we were in a really special place where we could cover that in a different way than national or even other local outlets were doing.
The site where Floyd was killed at 38th and Chicago has been transformed into a community gathering space where neighbors can grieve, heal, and ask each other, how did we get here?
In the core 3-person team, Mark was able to produce videos, conduct interviews, capture footage of the protests, and edit together the final product. Jenny would oversee production, editorial, and help with sourcing. Alexis was focused on hosting and audience engagement, and that left the challenge of not having a dedicated writer available to research and write scripts.
I would say the most challenging parts of this process have been the outline and the scripting. That is someplace where we just don't have a lot of experience.
Part of our style was to lean more heavily on interviews, video and storytelling elements that we would gather in the field and put that together. We ended up using video chat like Zoom to talk to people a lot. I think that let us include a lot more voices, including voices that we would normally have a harder time getting access to in the stories that we did.
Yeah, I'm both hopeful, but at the same time kind of like uncertain.
It's hard for me to imagine that we're getting this under control, especially with parties and the gatherings.
I'm still just as worried about going online. It sucks.
When we did some call outs 2 or 3 episodes in and we got people actually talking about things, people were more engaged. People really, really like to hear from the community rather than having us have a host talk them through something.
The team focused on using a host as the connective tissue that would provide context to these interviews. Alexis was chosen as the host, and she was new to being on camera.
The initial thoughts going through my head were like, I'm like not going to be a natural at this.
Over time, Alexis got more comfortable and confident being a host. One key step was doing a pre-read before it was time to shoot.
I would read the script out loud, and as I went, he and I would suggest things like, oh, you should not say that like that. That sounds so weird now that you're saying it out loud.
Better police community trust. Does that make sense to say? It makes sense to read with the dash in the middle, but does that make sense to say, you think?
Actually, that I think helped increase my confidence a lot once we were filming, because I felt like so much more familiar with the script and I'd worked through it myself already, changed the wording to be the way that I would say it.
Alexis's hosting duties and her responsibilities as an audience engagement producer across the newsroom quickly became a lot of work. She was crunched for time. To take the pressure off, the team brought in a second host for some episodes. And going forward, they're experimenting with having Mark record voiceovers to provide the narrative and context rather than having an on-camera host. The Star Tribune is continuing to refine and streamline their production process, but it's a format they plan to continue.
And I think that this whole thing has been super valuable for us, like I said, and I'm so excited that we are walking away with the tools to produce these like YouTube style videos, and we can use them not just on YouTube but on Instagram too.
Having access to your guys' expertise, but also having access to analytics about our audience has been really beneficial in learning what topics, what production styles, and what post-production styles really resonate with our audience.
We were appreciative to have this project in this year to make space for us to create different kinds of video. It's been so worth it, and absolutely something that we're going to stick with.
If you want to watch Tomorrow Together, you can find it on the Star Tribune's YouTube page, which is linked below. And you can find our playbook of best practices for creating social media video at pointer.org/vidspark.